Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Internet Access for DC Students Qlik and QuickBase Application trainings. We will get started in approximately 2 minutes while we give space for others to join in. All right, good morning and welcome to the Internet Access for DC Students Qlik and QuickBase Application training. We're going to go ahead and get started at this time. I think we have as many as 28 attendees in the session as of the moment. So Leah, we'll go ahead and switch over to the first slide. Just remember, if you have any questions or want to chat with me, you can go ahead and enter that into the question chat box within the panel, and I will respond to questions throughout the session. We do have some of our Octo partners on the line with us, so thank you so much for joining, and we're going to get through this. So if you have questions, as you know, this is a new program and fund that's being distributed and issued through the district, and so we want to make sure that everyone has as much information as possible so we can make this a seamless process for our families. We're going to go through some introductions just really quick. My name is Stephanie Davis. I am the Deputy CIO for the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. Many of you on the call already know me because we talk monthly at the LEA data discussion meeting. And so, hi, everyone, I see you out there. All right, let's go over to the summary of program. So the summary of the program: who is eligible for the GEER funds? The DC will pay for at-home internet for households with school-aged children enrolled at DC traditional and charter public schools that receive SNAP or TANF benefits. Comcast and RCM, our OSSI partners, both recognize that SNAP and TANF as eligibility requirements for their low-cost internet programs. The next question is, how do we determining the address that will receive at-home internet? Octo will be using the student address identified in the student information system as the household address for each student. Students who are virtually learning from locations other than their primary address will need to be flagged by LEAs in a separate form before September 25th. And what do families need to do? The primary guardian will receive a call, text message, or email from DC government asking if they'd like to join the program and for consent to share their name, address, phone number, and email with the internet provider that will be providing their service, either Comcast or RCN. And then Comcast or RCN will then contact the household to initiate the internet installation process. From the point of contact with Comcast or RCN, the household should receive their install kit within 5 to 7 days. And this is very important for you as an LEA to know this information so that as you may receive calls from our families of students, that you can actually provide them with the appropriate responses. Leah? And so a summary of the program timeline that has been put together by our Octo friends is that beginning today, effective at 10, the OSSI Qlik app training is occurring right now. And you will get access to the applications, which we'll talk about in a moment, through Qlik as well as in QuickBase. And I'm not going to read down through the timeline in specific, but please make sure that you review this so that you can provide further information to your families. So some considerations about the application. The first application we're going to talk about, and we'll go into a deep dive in a moment, is the Qlik application. This is the school year 2021 Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund application. Again, we're calling this GEER, so that's what GEER means, Governor's Emergency Education Relief. Data are fed nightly from the LEA Student Information System into OSSI, and that's how we're going to get that primary starting point information. The application will refresh at 9 a.m. and then at 3 p.m. daily, and we'll talk about why that 3 p.m. refresh is going to occur. Access is granted to the head of school and the LEA data manager. The student address is considered as the connection address for internet services. Students who are both stage 4 and 5 and meet the eligibility criteria will be included in the application. And only the parent or guardian listed as the primary guardian type in your feed will be listed as the primary guardian in the application. And we will only reflect 2 of the primary contacts from the nightly feed. What we want you to do beginning today through Friday is use this time to ensure that the data are accurate and updated in the SIS so that you can see it reflected in the applications before we start the process of giving the data to Octo and then to our Octo partners, RCN and Comcast. The second application of which you'll receive access to or should have gotten a QuickBase email from is the school year 2021 GEER Fund connection address. We talked about early in the summary of the program what happens if the student address in your SIS is not the address for which the student should receive the internet connection because they may be at grandmother's who lives in another part of the district, and that is where they will be receiving their educational services. And so what we have provided is this QuickBase so you can provide us that additional address for students. We do not expect that every student would have a different connection address, and so that this should not be a one-to-one. Only in those cases where a parent has flagged for you that this is where we're going to be educating our student during this pandemic. So this application should only be used when the internet connection address is not the same as the student's address. The data entered into QuickBase is fed to Qlik twice daily, excuse me, at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Only the LEA data manager will be granted access. We do not want everybody from the school going in and changing the student connection address because this could get unwieldy, and we want to make sure that we can keep control on what changes are being made. The connection information for the new student connection address is required except for email, apartment, and quadrant when DC is not selected as the state. So when DC is selected as the state, we are expecting the quadrant to be entered into the connection address information section. And we'll walk through that application in a moment as well. At this time, I'm going to, let's go through the next steps. So some next steps that you should be considering is review your students' data in the Qlik application for accuracy of the following fields: the student address, that the primary guardian is flagged in the SIS feed, and the primary guardian contact information is as accurate and up to date as possible. Where needed, you should complete the student connection address in the QuickBase application. And for questions, please submit an OSSI support tool ticket. Are there any questions while we transition? Please go ahead and put them into the chat and we'll address them. I'm going to transition over to the Qlik application to walk you through that at this time.
So Stephanie, we have a question on the line. Is this just for K-12 schools or adult charters also a part of this?
This is for PK 3 through 12 LEAs.
Is it possible to grant access to the app to other team members, or is it limited to the head of school and data managers?
Right now it's limited to the head of school and the data manager. Given that if you want additional partners within your LEA to have access, please let us know and we can determine if that is where the direction that we should go for this purposes. Meaning that you have a lot of things going on and you want other staff members to be able to access, let us know and we can work with you on that. Leah, can you go to Qlik and actually bring up in training this application and share your screen, and I'll talk through your screen
Hey, Stephanie,
Yes.
I just wanted to go back to the adult request for adult education. This is Nina from Octo. We will be looking at that as a serviceable household in October when we do second phase. But right now we are focusing on PK through 3 through 12.
Okay,
So
Nina, can you repeat that so that the staff can, the LEAs can hear you again?
Okay, yeah, we did confirm with Jesse that the GEER funding could be used for adult education. We just need to focus on PK 3 through 12 for this first round. And then because we have a limited amount of money and we cannot serve all of DC, based on the success of those signups, we will review adult education in October.
Okay, thank you, Nina. So that should answer the question for adult LEAs. Leah's
Yeah,
gonna,
it's our
go ahead.
hope that we'll capture some of those adult LEAs through the virtue of some of them may have children also in the school system. So, but that's a hope and dream, and it's not going to be true for everyone.
All right, so let's move forward to the Qlik application. In the Qlik application, there are 3 sheets that are listed in this application as Leah brings it just a little larger font. And so we'll go directly into the first sheet, which is the GEER fund eligible sheet. Within this sheet, you'll see all students who are found to be eligible and meet the criteria for the GEER fund and to receive the internet access. What we will allow to happen in the sheet is that you can filter through the USI, the student name, the parent or guardian name, and the status of services. The status of services for the time being will actually be blank. Oh, it's in there now. They did put something in there for me. Thank you, Naveen Kusala. So for in the training session, but for in your application is going to be blank because we would not have received the status of services back yet from Octo once we initially roll out this application to you. It will take at least a week before you start seeing information put into the status of services area. From there, you'll see all of your student population who are eligible. You'll get your student count. And then if their connection address that you have supplied for those students, then that would show in the connection address count. In this case, you have a total of 600 students and 591 of your student population needed to provide an alternative address for the purposes of receiving internet access at an additional location. We do not expect that number would be that high. So again, please make sure that you are not entering in the same address in the QuickBase. That is not needed. For the statuses of service bar chart, we show the different, how many students and where your population in that reference of the status of service. And that way you can keep count of where your students are in getting this internet access. Likewise, in all of our other Qlik applications, you do see your entire student population that meet this eligible criteria, and you'll be able to see as we scroll across the screen, the information associated to those specific students. Please be mindful that if you have duplicated a student within your LEA because you have the student attending 2 schools or you create a secondary account for some reason for those students, that the student will reflect twice in this application as well. So it is imperative that you keep your data as accurate and updated and consistent as possible. If we can move over to the secondary sheet. This next sheet is particularly focused on students who are experiencing homelessness. So within the first sheet, it's going to show all students who are eligible for TANF and SNAP benefits and meet that criteria, but it will not include your students who are experiencing homelessness by virtue of what you're sending across in your student information system. So if you have a student flagged in your student information system as experiencing homeless, we will show that student in this sheet, in this application. And the reason why we have pulled them or separated them from the other population is because for those students, Octo will be working with them to get them MiFis for the purposes of internet access. So students who are both TANF and SNAP eligible and experience homeless, and those students who are not TANF and SNAP eligible but are experiencing homeless will appear in the homeless GEER eligible sheet.
Oh,
So
and Stephanie,
yes, go ahead, Nina.
Thanks, sorry. Just to clarify that, we know that some schools have already purchased MiFis, and so our hope is that LEAs will prioritize their homeless students for receiving those MiFis, and then we have provisioned for the GEER funding if we need to assist with MiFi purchasing. It's not going to be as streamlined as the ISP portion now, but we will also review that later in the rollout of this program. So if you have MiFi nows, if you have MiFis now or hotspots, we really recommend giving them to this population.
Are there any questions from the LEAs on what Nina has stated about utilizing your MiFis within your LEA? Leah, do we have any questions in the chat?
So we have a question. So will you help fund hotspots?
Again, we will look at funding hotspots after we successfully launch this, the ISP outreach. And then our hope is, yes, I can't give you numbers or how it's going to work yet, but we have provisioned that. So I know that's like a non-answer and it's really unhelpful, but John, feel free to email me and we can talk about it.
Okay, I see additional questions now that I've had my screen up now. Are there any additional data sharing agreements we need to sign to ensure we're properly sharing student and family data? There are not. We have already set that up, and by virtue of what the fund allows, and the fact that the robocall will gather the consent from the family to move forward to our Octo partners, RCN and Comcast, there are no additional data sharing agreements that we need to create for this purpose. For the QuickBase app, not Qlik app. Okay, Susan, you said never mind. You answered already. Thank you. Zach has asked the question, is there a deadline for updating the QuickBase application with different addresses? I think it was shown in there that by September 25th, you should have updated the QuickBase application with the additional address. But we are sending the first batch of data over to Octo effective Sunday night, Monday morning. What happens if we have already made these connections with RCN and Comcast for eligible students? Nina?
If Michelle, correct me if I'm interpreting this correctly, that your house, you may have students who have already, whose households have already signed up for Internet Essentials and Internet First. So what we will be doing, so when we get these addresses on next week, what we're going to do is send them to Comcast and RCN to ask who is currently covered and who is currently connected. So our first round of outreach will be to those who have no connection at all, because they are a high priority, right? And then we have a second round of communication that will go out. That is, do you currently have RCN and you currently have Comcast Internet Essentials. Would you like DC government to pay for that? But again, we have to prioritize those who are not connected, and we only have $3 million to do it. So I cannot predict what the how many people are going to sign up.
And then one additional question, is this something that can be reimbursed if we've already purchased the MiFis?
Unfortunately, we do not have a reimbursement capability.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nina. So back to the homeless GEER eligible sheet in Qlik. Again, this is where you'll see all of your students who are experiencing homelessness and therefore are going to meet the eligibility criteria. One thing to remember, as you know, a lot of times when you do your year-end transition with your student information system, some fields just carry over from the previous year to the current year. One of those fields happens to be the homeless flag in your student information system. So please make sure that you have updated that homeless flag accordingly for that student for this school year of the 2021 school year, and that you are not just porting over from 1920 into school year 2021. I just want to call attention to that because that typically happens, and as we're getting into the enrollment audit period, we know we have to clean the data as much as possible. So make sure that you can do that on the front end now as opposed to waiting till later, because we want to ensure that the funds are given to the most neediest at this time. And if you go over to the last sheet, Leah. The last sheet is the ever GEER eligible. So we just wanted to be able to reflect back to you, the LEA, any students that ever came through this application, even though they may have since withdrawn from your school, we're still going to flag them here because at some point they appeared on the first or second sheets within the application. So that information will be reflected here for your for you to have. The question from Tears is that just to be clear, this Friday's deadline is for the first round of outreach. It is not the official cutoff. That is correct. It is for the first round. And we have 3 days, yes, 3 days to knock this out. So I want to instill the correct sense of urgency in our LEA. Yes, please make sure that they know that it is a very short turnaround. We want to get this tier 1 grouping of families outreach beginning. We want to begin that outreach. And so yes, as much as possible that you can divert your attention to this effort, we ask that you do so between Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so that we can make sure that we have as much clean data as possible to send over to Octo on Monday morning. The other thing is that since everybody, yes, has made their ADT connections and data are flowing through from your SIS to OSSI, we hope that you can, again, divert that attention to this project and this process. And then we have to set up bulk accounts with RCN and Comcast and are currently confirming address for our families. Should we halt and send the addresses to you instead of the companies? So Nina, what they're saying is they've already started to set up bulk accounts with RCN and Comcast. Should they halt that work and divert the attention to sending the addresses through OSSI and Octo?
I don't want to tell anybody how or what to do, but if you are comfortable with about a 2 to 3 week lag into September before the student will get the internet, and you are confident that you will be able to put them into the system and we will be able to contact them, that is certainly one way you could do this, or you could pay for 1 month and then we will get them when we connect them to their current account. But I want to do whatever is the most comfortable for you and your teaching plan, because I do know that some people are like, it's absolutely vital they have internet day one, or there are some teachers or schools that have said we can wait 3 weeks. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Zach has asked, are there outreach materials already in existence that we can push to families, or should they be creating their own?
We are creating them. We just have to finalize some, language with the ISPs that I hope we will get you this communication packet this week.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to switch over to the QuickBase application so we can show that to you as well. And I'll go ahead and make that transition now. Leah, if you can change me over to the presenter, and let's see if we can do it here. Here we go. As we're transitioning, there's one question from Zach. So what is required by Friday? Clean data or a list of interested families? That is clean data, Zach, that is required. And if you need to update the connection address, that you go ahead and make that update to the connection address in this application that we're ready to walk through now. All right, so in the QuickBase application, you'll use your normal QuickBase login credentials for LEA data managers. Once you come into the QuickBase application, in your stream, it should show us the school year 2021 GEER Fund connection address is the name of the application. We then here have just a little statement that asks you that if you're using this application for the sole purposes of updating the internet connection address for the student, and we will need these fields are mandatory for you to complete this process. I am in a training database, but however, because we know schools have a large populations of students who may be eligible, you can always search for the student here by typing in the student information to search for that student. For this particular one, I search for student with the last name ABC so that I can see that student's information. What we're going to show here for you, since this is a test student, we did not complete the student current student street address, but here as a view only section of the application, you'll be able to see all the identifying information for your student, as well as the student street address and the city, state, and zip code. If you're in this application and you realize that the address you're trying to enter in here is the same as this address, please stop and do not update the connection address because it is the same as the student's address. So we want to make sure that we're not repeating information here. However, if it is different, please make sure that you just click on the edit button, and at that time go into the student record and edit the information below. You will need the connection address first name, so the person whom we should be contacting at that address, their first name. You would need their last name, their phone type, home, work, cell, or other. We would need their actual phone number. And the email address is not required, but if they have an email address, please make sure that you enter the email address. And then we'll need the address information for this purpose. So make sure that you have all of this information ready and on hand when you get ready to go into this application, because the data would not be able to, you won't be able to save the information once here without having the required elements. Again, this information that is saved here in this application will then port over to the Qlik app twice daily at 9 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. You'll see the updates made into the Qlik application of just the connection address. And then at 9 a.m. in the mornings, you'll see the information that is updated from your student information system. Leah, you can take controls and move us back over to the last next step in the presentation slide. We have a question that says, should we tell our families to say yes when you reach out to them if they have received internet connection through us and we opt to continue payment just for 1 month? Nina?
I'm not sure what that really means, but if they get a text message from us, they should say yes if they want us to pay for it. Most definitely.
Okay. The next question, is there a way to bulk upload this information through Excel rather than one by one? What information are you trying to bulk upload? Zach, if you can come off mute and answer that question for me. Zach? Leah, did you take Zach off of mute?
Okay, it looks like I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
The alternative student address fields for all those students.
So how many students do you really think has an alternative address?
I have no way of, I don't know, right? So if it's 10, it's not a big deal. If it's 100, it could be a, I mean, just a longer deal. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So that would, for me, it would become a question at the point that you know is more than, let's say, 25
Got it.
that are going to need an alternative address. Our hope is that we're not doing that for a large scale number of students. Not that it couldn't be possible that that is the case, but our hope is that we're not doing it for a large scale number of students.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
let's play that. Let's play that by ear.
ear.
You know, I'm usually try to be very fair, but let's play that by ear as you get more and more information.
Sounds
Because what
good.
I
Thanks.
suspect will probably happen is that it won't come all in one day. It'll come sporadically over the next few days and over the next few weeks.
Yep. Thanks, Stephanie.
Here's another question. All my students in the app have a home address, but not a connection address. This is what we have to enter manually in the app, or only if it's different from the address. So you only have to enter a connection address if it is different from the home address. Again, you only have to enter a connection address if it is different from the home address, meaning that student is living at living at the home address, but for the purposes during the pandemic, they have to move over to their grandparents during the day, or for the purposes of a family member taking care of one another, and they need to move for this time period, then will you need to put in the connection address. Any other questions from anyone? Any hands raised, Leah?
No,
All
no
right, well,
hands raised.
wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for jumping on this quick training for the GEER fund process. Like I said, if you have questions, please always go ahead and submit an OSCE support tool ticket. We will try to get the answer to you as quickly as possible within these 3 days, because we know that it is something that we are trying to get set up for our families so that students can receive a consistent educational service for this year. Again, thank you so much for joining, and I'll talk to you on September 3rd for our upcoming LEA data discussion meeting. Take care and have a great day.